Beatles. Paul McCartney has said that AI has enabled a new final Beatles song. Da, da, da. The musician says he has used artificial intelligence technology to extricate John Lennon's voice from an old demo, and will finally complete a decades-old song, which will be released this year. So this year we'll have a Beatles song, and it's not like this Kanye AI singing "Hey There Delilah" sort of thing, which is really entertaining, but this is an actual song which John Lennon sung, was meant to be on a Beatles album, but they couldn't quite hit the right notes or whatever, and they've picked up the old grainy footage of the audio, and they've used AI to basically make it really polished and nice, and they're going to put that to create a new final Beatles song. I don't know if this will have like new like vocals from like the other ones as well. I don't know. There was like very limited information about it, but we will have an official Beatles song by AI, the final Beatles song. It better be good. If this is terrible, this is like really tarnish their legacy to some degree. But what are your thoughts on Beatles AI? Yara, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea and the fact that it's not like, as you mentioned, Kanye or Drake, I think.
This the Drake one, the famous one.
Yeah, so it's not like mimicking someone, but rather improving the voice or like the recording that they have. So this is like a completely different side of the coin, and yeah, definitely can be a future for us, especially like we can't really re-record Lennon anymore, and yeah, that's a shame, but yeah, it is what it is. So I would really love to listen to that one. On the other side, again, AI is taking over, and the future in music. I mean, I do music a bit. I'm not recording or anything, but I would love to have that tool to kind of, even like something like quantization or something where you need to kind of move the sounds a little bit. It really helps. And if it can be like done live with the AI while I'm playing, and it kind of moves the sound a little bit, or like, yeah, it would be really nice. And that's probably all.
What's your take, Jason, on?
Yeah, I don't know. You said this was non-controversial. Maybe I should drop in the controversy.
Please do.
There's something about music being so like emotionally connected to someone. There's like a layers of things here. Well, I think that what we're talking about is like that remixing or that kind of remastering or something like cleaning up something. You see that kind of colorized Victorian or like speed adjusted Victorian footage, and it suddenly kind of reveals something about the reality of the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm down for that. I think that sounds like a really good educational and really interesting tool. I think the idea of using generative AI in this area is like Paul McCartney probably releasing it under McCartney Lennon, probably. It's like looking at it being like
very clever play if he does it.
This is what Lennon would have wanted it to sound like, and we know that because that's what he sounded like previous. Is maybe kind of taking out that creative process of maybe the reason why this track was unfinished was because Lennon was like, I don't want to do something I've done before. This song means something new to me, and I want to try to work out a different way of singing or a different way of playing. And it's sort of taking that out of the individual's hands from a creative process by sort of generating it on the basis of things that they'd previously done, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that sits a bit uneasily with me. I guess the other part is the posthumous thing, right? And kind of not having consent. That's tough. And maybe they can say, well, the musical rights are owned by the estate, and the estate has said, go for it, because it's going to generate loads of marketing and it's going to make loads of money, which is great for everyone, sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely going to listen to the output, right? Because another Beatles song, brilliant.
It's my favourite band of all time.
I mean, who doesn't want more of that?
Yeah.
But I'm going to feel bad about myself when I listen to it, and it's going to make me think too much, and then I'll listen to something else.
Cry while listening to it. Yeah, I get it. Like, it's such. You're right. This one actually is controversial because what about the musicians as well? What about you make music? Is that going to be a thing in a couple of years, or like I have a theory that maybe the record labels will just make fake AI people, like musicians. Like they'll like use DALL-E to create like the perfect image of what somebody looks like.
The crazy frog.
The crazy frog.
Mika.
Exactly.
They're up to it already.
Exactly. They were too early. You know, they were pioneers. And then AI, you know, voice, and then you can create on mass, on scale, instantly, like every sound, every possible combination. Some of it will stick. I don't even know if humans making music will be a thing in a couple of years. Is that going to be a reality? Is this you know, as you know, the Beatles like doing it? Is that like the final like domino fall before it all happens?
Yeah, there are some things that my most curious self, despite the fact all the controversy that I might have just talked about, and there's maybe a duality in terms of how I'm thinking about this, but the generative thing is like, what if the Beatles made a black metal record?
Yeah.
Right, that's maybe I want to hear that. And
that.
an AI, definitely, that's the sort of weird world we could get into, and that I'm fascinated about, kind of just hearing, just the kind of an aesthetic desire to be like, what if? But yeah, is it that musicians are just like creating training sets, right? Sample libraries, already a thing, selling rights for sample libraries. Is that just loads and loads of musicians being like, here is a million different ideas that you can use as a training set or whatever? I don't know, there's like a whole world. They say when an innovation comes, it's like it happens slower than you think, and you end up in a place that you never could have foreseen or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't
it's
expect
really
this.
hard to predict as a futurist where things are going, really. And I'm excited and nervous.
My consumption of music has gone from 100% Spotify to maybe 80% Spotify, 20% YouTube at the moment, because I've got a dedicated playlist on YouTube for AI songs that I like. And I know it sounds weird, but there are some great AI songs out there. There's Oasis did an album called AI Sis. Yeah, which I was great. It was like a new Oasis album. I was like, fantastic. Spotify, and they're not pretty going to host that because of the copyright issues and everything. So maybe there could be a Spotify killer coming in the future where it's got a Google interface. You type in what song you want, you type in who you want to sing it, you click generate, and there you are, you've got it.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'd pay £10 a month for that. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I guess with AI, this has been happening a lot, I think, in digital rights management, and a lot of musicians talking about how we do fair attribution.
Okay.
You know, and there's been lots of cases recently, right? There's the Ed Sheeran case that's just finished about where does the line between someone plagiarizing, just outright copying, and where does inspiration come from? And do we think that training an AI is inspiration, or is that copying? Is the AI inspired by other artists to create that music? And, you know, some way of having, you know, even if it's not a direct credit, some kind of way of attributing where things have come from, like this song or this thing is like 80% this and 20% this, coming out of an AI, rather than being like, this person wrote this melody. You know, that I think that's like a really interesting space, that all these knock-on effects of how people are having to think about stuff like rights management in AI, which has existed in, you know, between bands and individuals already, but I feel like this is kind of pressing the point home to a point where people are like, oh, actually, maybe now we really need to sort that out.
It's automating it, so people are just they're more nervous about it because it doesn't require somebody sitting down, mixing it and making it, and then paying a couple, you know, to get this you know, drum sound in there or anything. It's different. It's you know, on scale we could have automation doing it. What about like musicians being paid for this? Because right now with GPT, you're not paid. It's just scouring the web, and you know, they're not paying anybody for that. I'm sure they'll be paying some people for large data sets, but you know, most people with the website on Google, if it's scraping information from your site, same with like DALL-E and Midjourney and stuff, I don't believe they're paying like photographers to upload content on there. Is that going to be the same for musicians? Are they going to just scour YouTube or, you know, wherever it's got free music hosted? Interesting. I mean, will they be paid for it? What about predictions? Like, what about yourself, Yarrow? Do you think musicians are going to be paid for using their songs, or do you think it will just be like a Wild West out there?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it should be controlled somehow, because like otherwise it's not fair. And on the other side, also, I do see the future for the musicians. Instead of writing music, they will just train the sets, train the neural networks, and they will kind of teach it how to do it. Also, to the good sides of this future, I would say that you see a lot with the people who are living with music. They get sometimes into the state that they don't have inspiration. They lose themselves and they start thinking about bad things.
Sure.
Now they have AI that can kind of help them to get back that inspiration and create something for them. So I hope that's going to reduce the amount of bad things in the world. One thing that I wanted to add to the previous topic was like, I mean, technically, if we check the old times when we had just a piano or xylophone or something, we had a clear acoustic sound. Then we created all the types of pedals and distortion and so on and so on. Does it count as like something completely different, like AI currently? So like a change to the music. It's not your instrument anymore. It's like the changed instrument.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, right? I don't think anyone really knows the answer to it. I mean, I guess that bass file was somebody else's, but has it been changed enough to the point where it's now yours? I don't know. Like, no one knows.
Yeah, like synth patches, right? Some arpeggio or something like that that's on countless records, or those samples that are used over and over again. Someone's going to get paid. And I think there are enough people and enough money involved that working out who, I mean, PRS have been trying to do that a long time, right? Every time you play something in a public place, someone's going to get a performance cut for that. And I think that's fair. You know, I think that is right. I think the artist should be rewarded for it. And at the moment, I don't think they are through that kind of that point of inspiration or the sample or whatever. And maybe they should be credited for it. And maybe that's, you know, the royalty, whatever the share of royalty that needs to go to what's attributed. You know, you've got like 1% of this song really comes from this person, and so 1% of this proceeds should go to them, and finding some way to make that work. I know it's a complicated problem. Maybe it's been automated for a while. We've had technology for a while and it's still not done. But I think there's so many more interesting things we could do to make sure we have fair attribution for that sort of work. And it's the same with images, you know, it's the same with artwork. It's hard, isn't it? Because you go back and be like, how many times people have asked DALL-E to create an anime picture or something? It's like, who owns what anime looks like? That's probably a hard thing to have attribution for in terms of like a stylistic thing. But yeah, it's like, it's fascinating, and I really hope people do make the effort to find a way to give fair payment to the individuals who have created. Because I think in terms of like going to the future of AI, I'd rather there were people around having, you know, selling their time for artistic and creative pursuits, and having the robots working in warehouses,
of course,
than having the people working in warehouses and the robots making music.
You know, the whole fun jobs. I know. It'll be interesting if this impacts podcasting at all, because I mean, podcasting is like the next thing to music, like in terms of closeness of mediums, really. You know, will I be able to create auto-generate episodes in the future? You know, talking about what's happening in the world, scraping that data from different news platforms, having fake guests. You know, could I be interviewing Trump and Elon about a topic? I mean, it's getting their genuine opinions based on their, you know, social media posts. It'll be interesting to see if music is then the gateway to podcasting. I suspect it is. You know, it's just audio at the end of the day.